Savvy Central Radio, drawing out the best from our guests, with host Christina Nitchman.
Our Savvy shows are being syndicated on 7 AM/FM radio channels through AM/FM 247. If you're away from your radio or internet, don't worry. Every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, you can listen to Savvy Central Radio on AM/FM 247 Broadcasting Network by calling 712-832-2784 from any phone. Calls have no additional cost and just use your mobile minute. So save the number to your phone, 712-832-2784. Hello everyone, and welcome to Savvy Central Radio. This is your host, Christina Nitchman. Each week on Savvy, we host successful individuals and business owners, inviting them to share their dreams, stories, wisdom, and lessons learned in their field of business. Our guest today is Jonathan and David Bennett. The duo provides dating coaching for men. Back in 2010, Jonathan and David began to explore why some guys were more successful socially than others. They wondered, why did some guys have lots of friends, women practically begging for their attention, and advance so easily at work, while others were lonely, dateless, and going nowhere at work? After thousands of hours of research and personal observation and diving into such diverse fields as psychology, nutrition, and even quantum physics, they discovered the science of popularity. And hence their business came to be, thepopularman.com. Today, Jonathan and David Bennett will share their dating tips for both men and women. To find out more about Jonathan and David and their business, visit thepopularman.com. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, David. Welcome to Savvy Central Radio. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having us. We're doing excellent.
We're doing wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We had a little story before we got started here. It seemed that we had to re-record as the first recording we didn't actually take. So I thank you so much for coming on back and getting together with us to share your expertise. Now, you are dating coaches for guys, and you're going to help us, not only the guys in our audience, but also women, really get a handle on effective dating tips. And you have co-authored 6 books together on men dating, relationships, from Size Doesn't Matter, the Shorter Man's Handbook to Dating and Relationship Success, and another one, 11 Dating Mistakes Women Make and How to Correct Them. So before we get started, share with our audience a little bit about your background and how you came to becoming dating coaches.
We got started by a friend of ours was very effective at meeting people and relating to others. He was and still is funny, charming, and a great leader. And even though he wasn't physically perfect, we saw that he had a lot of women competing for his attention. And we admired him, and we asked him, what is it that you do? And we worked together along with him to kind of model what it is he thought and what he did that made him successful. And then together we also looked at, what do successful people think and act in all kinds of situations? And then based on that, we created kind of a system or a program. And then we gave a presentation to some local matchmakers and their clients one day about body language. And they were really impressed with what we had to say. And then they asked us to come in and help their male clients. And that's really how we got started as actual dating coaches.
So actually, what you learned as far as what works for dating, you could really apply it to success in general and even business and in many other areas of life.
Yeah, this is Jonathan. And our original concept wasn't so much as dating, was just general attraction, general popularity. In fact, our brand is the Popular Man because it really does apply to situations like making friends, networking, sales even. But what we found was that because the drive, I guess you could say, for dating and getting into relationships was so strong, that was the angle most people wanted. They wanted to learn skills related to dating rather than, let's say, business or making friends. But yeah, those skills are universal and apply to everything.
So what are some of the correlating factors between dating, networking, making friends, and being successful that you could impart to our audience?
Well, this is David again. Just general communication skills, the ability to communicate with people effectively, to hear what others are saying. Confidence is something that correlates as well. I mean, if you don't have the confidence to walk up to someone at a networking event and introduce yourself, you're not going to have the confidence to go up to a girl and talk to her. So also, too, I think general charm, humor. I mean, humor and charm work very well in the workplace. They make people like you in pretty much every setting. And if you can have that level of humor, you'll also be able to attract women as well. So a lot of these overlap. And honestly, our definition of attraction is actually very broad. We consider attraction just drawing people into you. And we teach guys that you should be attractive to everybody by that definition. People should want, by what you say and what you do and who you are, people should admire you. They should want to be around you. So when you kind of master these basic skills, people just want to be around you, and they actually want to be you too.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone, because I had someone on a couple months ago who was a speaking coach, and one of her top tips was really working on your confidence. That is like the number one factor for really getting yourself out there business-wise and otherwise. Do you have any tips for anyone out there who's a little not confident in either their appearance or anything, maybe their skill set or whatever it might be?
This is Jonathan. What we teach people is there are a couple angles. The first one is fake it till you make it in some ways, because you got to start somewhere, and it's hard to take that first step without a little bit of overall confidence. So we often teach tips like body language, lowering your voice if you're a guy, ways to just kind of fake it in a way. But the best way to gain real confidence is to actually go out and have accomplishments that you can be confident about. So we do teach a lot of self-development. So we don't just tell guys, hey, go out and fake it. We also tell them, go out and get real accomplishments so that you can actually be proud of who you are and what you do.
Well, what would be your top 3 tips for someone wanting to work on becoming successful or more confident? Because you said there are some things you do to help them gain that.
Okay, this is David. Probably the major tip that we give guys is to change their body language. So they've done scientific studies. They've measured testosterone levels in guys. And actually changing their body language, holding more confident poses, can increase bodily testosterone. So we suggest guys start holding their bodies like confident guys do. One basic tip we give is when you're out talking to somebody, if you're at a bar or at a coffee shop, a lot of guys want to put the drink right up to their chest when they're talking to a girl. And that's a form of body blocking. It's putting something between you and the other person. That's a sign of insecurity. So something as simple as taking the drink and lowering it to their side can show more confidence. We also suggest that guys change their general communication, that they focus on communicating in a more confident way. So projecting their voice, speaking from their diaphragm as opposed to from their voice box, speaking in a deeper voice. Mm-hmm. And then another major tip is we just recommend guys kind of set the frame. And what we mean by that is that if a guy wants something or has something to say or has a concern, he expresses it. He sets the tone. So if he wants to talk to a girl, he's got to go do it. He can't just sit at a coffee shop, buried in his laptop, looking over his laptop, thinking, I really hope she comes up and talks to me. Because the odds are pretty good she's not going to do that. He's got to have the guts to walk over there and say something to her. If he wants to do it, he's got to take charge and do it.
I like those tips because they're both great for both men and women in that you can pay attention, like you mentioned, lowering the drink. I think I've done that in dates I'm very uncomfortable with, making sure that there's something between me and the person I'm talking to because of that fear of insecurity or not being comfortable with that person yet.
Yeah, and this is Jonathan. And you know what? Those are very natural. In fact, we don't even know we do it. Mm-hmm. That's a subconscious way that our brain helps us deal with stressful situations. It's kind of like the cat who gets scared and hides his head behind a curtain, even though his body is exposed. Even though that's not really going to protect him, it helps him relax and feel better. In the same way, our brain will by causing us to block, even with this like a drink or something like that, that's not going to stop an intruder coming after us. But on the other hand, it helps us feel better and more secure. So by taking what is in the realm of the subconscious and taking conscious control of that, we can help not only ourselves appear more confident, but it also helps us feel more confident when we take that initiative.
Absolutely. And now I noticed you did write a book for shorter guys. Why did you do that? Why specifically did you write a book for shorter guys?
Well, this is David again. It's mainly because in the dating world, I would say probably the biggest disadvantage a guy can have is his height. We have dealt with clients. We read a lot of stories about shorter guys who struggle to get a date. In fact, they're actually women that have complained about dating sites because they were unable to filter out short guys. Mm-hmm. And we also are short ourselves. And on the shorter side, we've typically growing up and through high school and college, if we heard any reason why women would not date us, it was usually because we were short. So it was a particular need and also kind of that personal connection that we had.
So why do you think that is for women, that they desire a certain height? I mean, for me personally, I'm 5'1", and anyone, I always feel as long as they're at my height, I feel just fine with anyone.
Well, I think some of it is somewhat biological. I mean, the idea of, wanting a guy who's kind of strong and a protector type. A lot of women that we talk to say that they want a taller guy so they can feel more secure or something like that. But a lot of it, we believe, is culturally conditioned in the sense that, the image that Hollywood puts forth is, Prince Charming. He's tall, dark, he's handsome. I remember in high school, this girl, she liked me, and she told a friend of mine that, yeah, I really like him. He's short, dark, and handsome. And my friend said, well, shouldn't that be tall, dark, and handsome? I mean, the idea is that a lot of women are told over and over again, a guy has to fit this stereotype. And after a while, they not only internalize that, but that's the expectation to conform, wanting a guy like that. And of course, it happens to women too. An image in the media of a perfect woman doesn't really fit the way most women are, the idea of having to be super thin, that kind of thing. Well, men often see that, but it comes on the height angle, not so much the body shape or that kind of thing, but the height.
Wow, it's amazing how image can be so dangerous for either sex and very unhealthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, short guys kind of get a raw deal in a way because, society tends to be aware of kind of stereotypes about a lot of people. A lot of movies they avoid, or people avoid, making stereotypes about a lot of different groups, but it seems to be okay these days to kind of still make fun of short guys. If you look at like the movie Frozen, the Duke of Weaselton is kind of your stereotypical short guy, and he tries to actually dance with Anna and Elsa, and they laugh at him because of his height. He wears heels, And the villain in Shrek, for example, Shrek is all about like acceptance of everyone, except for, of course, the jokes that are made at the expense of the short guy. That's okay. So a lot of guys, women I don't think quite understand that short guys feel their height is a pretty big insecurity. Jonathan and I both, if we had trouble getting dates for a lot of our high school and college years, and it almost always went back to height in our mind. And it was pretty crippling at times. I would trace a lot of the depression I suffered for a brief period of time, anxiety. A lot of it went back to the height angle, actually, strangely enough.
And I'd like to add that a lot of that was in our own head.
Yes.
We, looking back, we can find where we made a bigger deal out of it. And in fact, I would always say that I often got rejected for my height. But David and I were talking the other day that we could both, between us, really come up with one example of true rejection based on our height. And that was a girl who was, I think, like 6'2". So I don't blame her for wanting that big of an age gap. She said it was height gap. But she mentioned that, I was a senior and she was a freshman. Sorry. But
there was an age gap.
Yeah. There was an age gap too. But she said that it wasn't her. It wasn't me. It was her because she was so tall. And I didn't believe it at the time. But now I actually see why, because she was extra tall for a girl and was very insecure about that. But a lot of it was our own internal views of ourselves rather than what we actually experienced.
So actually, your own self-development and growth in yourself has actually helped your confidence, and all the self-development you went through, both of you, have really helped in now being confident around the opposite sex.
Oh, yeah, this is David. Yeah, absolutely. If you look around, most guys can identify short guys that are very successful at dating or very successful in their careers. It is a disadvantage. It is. We're not going to claim that it's easier if you're short. It probably is a little easier if you're taller, but there are things you can do to kind of make up for that deficiency. So a lot of the guys we know that are shorter, there are a lot of other things they're doing wrong that's really keeping them from getting a date. It's not necessarily just their height. That's a weakness, but they're doing other things that's stopping them from getting a date.
My next question was going to help both women on our show as well as men listening in, and that is, what are some of the greatest mistakes you've seen both men and women make with regards to dating?
Well, this is Jonathan. I'll start with the men. The biggest mistake we see guys make is that they over-focus on their looks while under-focusing on their personalities. And while of course, a guy should try to look his best, absolutely. A guy thinks that if he spends hours in the gym trying to get his perfect body, that he's going to automatically get any woman that he wants, whereas he's actually boring, he's not funny, he lacks confidence. So the biggest mistake we see out of guys is that they stop a personality development. The other big mistake guys make, and when we see this out of a lot of actually genuinely good guys, is they think that because they are nice guys, that women should owe them a date. And it's kind of like, well, all you have going for you is that you're nice. Well, that's kind of a basic requirement of being in a polite society. It's kind of like saying, well, I'm not a criminal, so come date me. Whereas what we tell guys is, yeah, continue to be nice, but above all, focus on being attractive. Mm-hmm. Nice can be a part of that, but you have to have more going for you than just simply being nice, cordial, and so forth. Whereas a lot of guys think that actually entitles them to a date, and that's not the case.
Now, this is David. Now, women, the mistakes that we see that women make, a lot of the mistakes actually result from the misunderstanding that men and women see the world the same way. So guys think, okay, I think women, I base my initial attraction on how a woman looks. Therefore, I'm going to try to make myself look the perfect body and not focus on my personality. Mm-hmm. So women sometimes tend to think, well, I'm the fun girl. I got a great personality. I could practically have my own stand-up routine. I'm smart. I've got a college education. I'm great at my career. Why aren't guys talking to me? And that's because, for better or for worse, guys tend to base their initial attraction on looks. And I mean, this is not always politically correct to say, but I mean, most guys prefer, fitter women and typically younger women. Yeah. Again, that's just nature. I mean, it's something that if you ask a guy, why do you prefer that? They probably couldn't even give you an answer. So we just suggest that women, don't neglect that side of what you're doing. You don't say, well, you know what, I give up on my looks because I'm done trying. Well, that's probably where you should focus maybe a little more if you haven't been getting dates in quite a long time.
And we're not implying, this is Jonathan, that guys expect a woman to be like the perfect image in their head or what society tells them. What we often say is, given your situation, given what you can do, make an effort to look your very best. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to go out with a guy, go the extra mile on looking as best you can, and also work what you have.
Yeah.
Any person with any body type, any look, any age can work what they have to their advantage physically. And that's the advice we typically give our female clients.
I like that you say that. That's a really, really good point, because I think I've heard from a lot of, say, 40-year-old friends. They're in that range, and they, they've been on so many dates over the years, and they're like, I'm done. I'm just showing up the way I show up. So I'm frumpy, so I'm plump or whatever. And I'm thinking, well, this isn't just for the benefit of the guy you're going out with. This is for your very health. You want to go out there and not only look your best, but feel your best, because you're going to present your best self.
That's right. And we expect our guy clients to be their best as well. So, if they need to get to the gym, we tell them that. But even with their personality, if a guy were to tell us, well, you know what, I don't bathe, my hygiene is terrible, and I have a neck beard, and, doggone it, my favorite hobby is collecting old toys, we're going to say, you know what, most women aren't going to like that. So if you want to go out and get a date, you're probably going to have to do some things to actually win women over. So I think a lot of it is, like you said, it's about just being your best and bettering yourself. And if you do that, a lot of times the dates will follow naturally, just because that's what people look for. They look for excellence and desirable traits in the other person.
Yeah, and actually both sides win. I mean, you win because you're being your best self, which can only be beneficial to your entire life as well as the person you meet. Now, I also like that you mentioned the differences between communication styles and thinking styles of men and women. Because when I first got hooked up with my now partner, we've been together for 9 years, we had a lot of fights in the beginning because of communication styles. My guy is very visual, as you guys know, most guys are, and I am very feeling oriented. Let's talk this out. You know, I want to know what you're feeling. What are you thinking? And he's like, I'm not thinking anything. Go away.
Yes. Well, that's exactly right. I mean, we've written articles related to that. I mean, probably the biggest mistake a lot of men and women both make is assuming that the opposite sex thinks the same way. I mean, there are obviously a spectrum of people within each sex, but I mean, like you mentioned, you know, I mean, guys can just think about nothing. I mean, my wife will be like things like, you know, well, what do you think about? Nothing. You know, I mean, I'm literally thinking about nothing. And women sometimes have trouble with that. Their brains are emotionally, they're connected in ways that ours are not. We can compartmentalize a lot more easily than women. Mm-hmm. We might not want to talk about something. You know, we might literally just want to go out and hit baseballs. We might want to just go out and hit a punching bag 50 times. And that's how we deal with it. We might not need to express our feelings all the time. So to accept that there are male and female differences and then work around that and actually work with that is probably a more effective strategy than pretending they don't exist and then being surprised when there's trouble.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned that. What helps for me and my partner is that I stopped expecting him to, to voice his feelings, and only when he felt needed. But what's awesome about my partner is he also allowed me to just tell him how I'm feeling and listen when I wanted to vent, which was awesome. So now I'm not saying, tell me your feelings, because I'm telling you mine.
Well, that's good. And that's what it amounts to, is you got to have some compromise. You know, you got to, if you recognize that the person you're talking to sees the world differently than you to some degree, you can figure out how they see it, and then you can kind of adjust your response accordingly. So a guy can actually open up a little bit, and even though it might not be natural, express how he's feeling a little more. Mm-hmm. A woman could let the guy have some quiet time and just acknowledge that him wanting to be alone is not a rejection of her. Mm. It's just how he deals with the stress in his life.
And we even this is Jonathan, we even tell a lot of our guy clients that if you want to relate to women, you're going to have to stop being so wooden and logical and actually relate to them on more of a feeling level. And a lot of guys find that's actually very successful, and it's actually more interesting. A lot of people aren't interested in wooden facts that makes you boring as a post, but when you share your feelings and experience, people can actually relate to that. But a lot of guys tend to default to that distant, compartmentalized logic, which a lot of women don't find that very attractive, and it's hard, and even a lot of people don't find that attractive or relatable.
Yeah, especially if your partner is going through a significant problem or emotional problem and you're just putting a whole bunch of facts or solutions on the table. It's like, no, I just want you to listen. Hold me.
Well, there's a funny video I like. There's this woman who's got a nail in her forehead. And the guy's like, there's a nail in your forehead. And she's like, that is not about the nail. Why can't you just understand what I'm feeling right now? I just thought that was so funny, because that is kind of the difference. Guys want to fix everything. Yeah. So women just kind of want to be heard a little more, just acknowledge what I'm feeling and kind of go with that. And it's just kind of funny because, we do see the world differently, and it's okay. There's nothing wrong with seeing the world differently. It's just, in fact, I think we communicate a lot better if we actually acknowledge that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's great is you can see the different perspective. For me, I'm kind of easy breezy out there and not grounded sometimes, and my partner is very grounded. So you can actually take both perspectives and make your union a lot stronger by putting them together and really acknowledging both sides, as you said.
And that's a great point, because the second big mistake that we find a lot of women make, and some men make this mistake too as well, is that they want someone who fits this mental checklist that they have of their ideal partner. So, it might be for a woman, a guy, he has to be tall, he has to have a college education, make six figures, etc. For a guy, it might be, a woman has to be, a certain weight, so forth. But we find that a lot of people who set these checklists in their head often miss out on a lot of good people. And they might find there might be someone out there who would be a perfect complement for them, a perfect fit, like we've kind of been talking about, where they complement each other, but they would reject that person because they don't check off every box that they have in their head. So we tell a lot of our clients, especially the female ones who have these checklists, that if you would be a little more open-minded and not have, the guy doesn't have to meet standard, like, 18 through 94, you might find a guy who you'd really get along with. And we're not saying to settle to the point where, the guy is like a total loser, but you might want to relax a little bit and keep a bit of an open mind.
Yeah, I like that point, because in my 20s, I put together just such a list, and I showed it to my best friend, and she said, well, what do you know? You want to date yourself in male form.
I think we all do that to a degree, and but like you mentioned about being complementary, if we want to find a person who's a carbon copy of ourselves, we might not even get along with that person.
That's right. Because,
if two people are very strong-willed, they're never going to get along, whereas if one's a little more strong-willed and one is more about creating compromise and getting along, that couple might get along a lot better than two people constantly butting heads.
Really good points. Now, I know in one of your books you mentioned how women often put things before their romantic relationships. Why is that a problem?
Well, I mean, from an equality standpoint, that's fine. We believe that anybody can pursue any life path they want. God bless them in that, whatever they want to do. But the problem is that, if you want to make dating a priority, then it has to be put as a priority. And a lot of guys and women both, I think, are reluctant to date someone who is almost like married to their job, or who puts career and education before dating. I mean, it's just a matter of, we teach a lot, what you pay attention to shows what you're interested in. And if, you're more concerned about your career and your education, and you don't really have time to give a guy attention, then that just shows where their commitment level is, in the sense that if we prioritize what is important to us. So a lot of guys might be looking for to start a family, to settle down, so to speak. If the primary focus of a woman or a man is their career, and they're spending literally hours, lots of hours a week focusing on that, then they're not really going to have the time to focus on the relationship. Yeah. What we're saying is that you really can't have it all, so to speak, in modern society. If dating and relationships are a priority to you, then you have to show that in your thoughts and actions, and in what you do, and how you kind of form relationships with other people.
Well, that is a great point. And before we head on out, I want you to let everyone know how they can contact you, work with you.
Well, we visit our website, thepopularman.com, and we have our 6 books are available on Amazon. Our main kind of flagship book is Be Popular Now. Also, Size Doesn't Matter, of course, is our book geared towards shorter guys. We also have a book called Say It Like You Mean It, which is about using positive affirmations to rewire your brain.
We also have a brand for teens. We didn't talk about it much tonight, but it's called The Popular Teen. ThePopularTeen.com is the website. And that's dedicated for people who want to help their children, or for self-motivated teens to become more popular in a positive way that emphasizes social skills and anti-bullying.
Well, that's fabulous. Thank you. That is a really good topic, too. So I know a lot of our listeners do have kids. So I want to thank you both for coming on and talking about this very fascinating topic. And do you have any last words you'd like to leave our audience with?
This is David. My last words, I would say, would be that you can get better at dating. You can become more attractive. Society kind of assumes that if you're good at dating, you were kind of born that way, or if you're not, it's a mystery, and you're just kind of stuck being unattractive. But science has given us good ways to become more attractive, to get dates, and if guys are willing to do that, well, we're willing to help them do that.
And this is Jonathan. My last words would be, often deep down we know what is right, we know what to do, and these kind of things. We just have to have the courage to do it. And I just want to say that life's too short, so just go out and do what you know to be right.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. And everyone, please go check out thepopularman.com. Thank you guys for coming to Savvy Central Radio today and sharing your fascinating information and wisdom with our audience.
Well, great. Thank you for having us.
Our wonderful guest today comes to us by way of RadioGuestList.com. Getting the better talk show radio and podcast interview for guests and sponsors for free.